Hello. Today I will present another study conducted by Mr. I and myself. This research was carried out in the second term of the first year of junior high school. We focused on the English vocabulary retention rate among Japanese first-year junior high school students, aiming to see how many previously unfamiliar English words they could remember after hearing a story just once. The experiment aimed to determine the acquisition rate, specifically how many words students could remember 4 weeks after hearing a story just once. We conducted a delayed post-test 4 weeks later, anticipating that students would forget most of the words learned from hearing the story after a month. Previous studies showed retention rates of 0.18 to 0.25 words per minute for EFL adults after 5 weeks. We aimed to compare our findings with these results. The hypothesis was, junior high school students with limited English proficiency cannot understand the flow of an English story or unintentionally acquire new vocabulary from it. While experienced university students might pick up some words just by listening to a story, this may not be as feasible for younger, less experienced learners. Therefore, beginners with limited vocabulary and little exposure to English stories were expected to perform differently from experienced adults. In other words, we anticipated their retention rate would not be impressive. The second author gave a 35-item vocabulary pretest just before telling the story. After the story, he re-administered the same test as an immediate post-test. However, he did not provide correct answers to the meaning of the words after the post-test. The test was a translation from English words to Japanese. Since students could not read English yet, the teacher read each word aloud on the test. This experiment aimed to determine the retention rate of unfamiliar words from hearing a story just once, without any activities or corrective feedback. The same test was administered a third time 4 weeks later. The reliability rates for each test administered were 0.43 for the pretest, 0.89 for the post-test, and 0.85 for the delayed post-test. The time spent telling the story was 22 minutes. The number of participants was 37. The rate was 0.21 words per minute. The rate was as good as that of adult EFL learners. Then, about a month later, we did another experiment to confirm the results. In the first experiment, their familiar English teacher told them a familiar story, The Three Little Pigs, which storyline they already knew. In the second experiment, an unfamiliar person told an unfamiliar story, which was longer and more complex with many unfamiliar words. We added the 3 obstacles: an unfamiliar person, an unfamiliar story, and a longer and more complex story. The result was that the rate was 0.19 words per minute. So, it was confirmed that beginning level students could benefit from story listening as well as experienced learners. Conclusion. If students listen to 100 20-minute-long stories delivered in the SL way for a year, whether in class, after school, or as part of club activities, it would total 2,000 minutes or just 33.3 hours. Assuming an average retention rate of 0.20 words per minute, students would naturally acquire 400 words in just 33.3 hours a year by simply listening to and enjoying stories in English. As they become more accustomed to hearing stories in English, their acquisition rates will increase. When story listening is done several times weekly, they will retain more words from each story. Over time, the duration of each story will gradually extend beyond 20 minutes as the stories naturally become longer. If this approach were implemented in schools, students could acquire many English words and improve their listening comprehension skills and other language features.